Well, this interview for me is going to be an added pleasure. They're all wonderful to do, but lately I've been surrounded by the Air Force and the Army. And this time I've got one of my clan to talk to. I've got a gentleman from the Navy. Not only from a Navy, he was from a couple of navies. And I'm sure that you're going to be very interested in what you're going to see and hear today. I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Clement Richardson, and he answers to the name of Rick. And we asked him why someone didn't nickname him Clem instead of Rick. And his answer is interesting. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
And could you start off by telling us why people call you Rick?
Because I hate the name Clem.
Clem, for some reason.
Well, when I was about 3 years old, I was at a movie, and the backup character was like Gabby Hayes, with a beard, no teeth, and always yes to a no to the main character of the show. And this Gabby Hayes character was called Clem. And from there on, I hated the name Clem because I thought I looked like him, even when I was that high.
Fine, Rick. Rick, you're a Brit.
Yep.
Born and raised. And your career began, I believe, in the Royal Navy. Not the Royal Canadian Navy, but the Royal Navy. Now, where were you born?
A little village called Black Hill outside of Durham in England.
Yes. And when?
Oh, about 1924.
1924, I see. And you grew up there?
No, we moved to another little village.
Yeah.
Just ahead of the landlord of the first village.
I see.
And this is the way we moved.
Yes, and you grew up in the second...
In place, this little place called Witten Gilbert.
Did you get your schooling there and so on?
I did my schooling there.
Yeah.
We had about 100 kids and did elementary school.
Ah, right. Now, how old were you when you joined the Navy?
18.
18, I see. Was the war on?
Excuse me,
Yeah.
I didn't join.
You didn't join.
We
I
were
see.
conscripted because the war was on us.
Oh, yes, yes. Could you tell us about that? How did that happen? Were you going to school or what were you doing?
No, I was managing a grocery store with 5 people in, and then we got this letter this day which said something about the Majesty's pleasure would I report to the recruiting office, because all people born between February the 1st and February had to report.
Yes, it was your time.
So my time was up.
Yeah, I understand. So you joined at 18, and what happened to you? What did you do then? They sent you off to training and so on. But could you tell us about that?
Well, first, you had to, in those days, there was no transport.
Oh.
You see, from our village, the war was on, and we didn't have a bus, so we had to get up early and walk the 4 miles to Durham from my village where I lived to register for the forces.
I see.
And
you'd register there?
In Durham, register.
Yes, yeah.
But my father and my buddy, who was an air cadet, went with me.
Yeah.
And my father wanted me to join the Army, or sign for the Army, so he could claim me, which meant I would stay with him for the rest of the war. My buddy wanted me to join the Air Force, and who wants to go up there when you got a good ground underneath you?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to join anything.
Right.
So we decided, at least I decided, I would join what the guy ahead of me joined. And you can imagine this building with about 10 deep all around the building, you see.
Yeah.
So I went in behind this guy, and they asked him what he wanted to join, and he said the RN, of course.
Yeah.
So I said the RN, of course. His brother was in the RN, and that's what he wanted to be. So they asked him what branch. Well, I didn't even know they had an RN.
Let alone a branch.
But he said he wanted to be a signalman.
Yeah.
So I said I would be a signalman, and I thought that would be great, because the only signalman I knew blew the whistle and let the train go out of the station. You see, and that's why I became a signalman.
Yeah. Yes,
And then,
but you found out that it was quite different, your job.
yeah, they sent us down to, we got another letter. The Queen requested our pleasure again, you see.
Yes, yeah.
And we reported to Skegness,
Yeah.
which was a Butlin's holiday camp. We had a little room about 12 by 12 with a double bed in,
Yeah.
and a plank down the middle, so they could sleep two men in. Two men weren't allowed to sleep together, you see.
Oh, I see. So you
And-
put a plank down the middle and then sleep on each side.
Yeah, and you had one blanket.
Yeah. Oh. Over the plank, you two and the plank.
Well, we had to keep the plank in between us,
Yes,
you see,
yeah.
so and no pillowcase,
Oh.
and no heat. And this was in October on the east coast of England.
That got your attention, eh?
Well, the first thing that happened was next morning at about 5 o'clock we were called out. We lined up, and the first thing, the chief came around. We thought he was an SOB.
Yeah.
Prudent lady he was.
Yeah.
And he made us all strip down to just shorts and running shoes. We had to take our socks, underwear off, anything else to keep warm.
Yeah.
He lined us up. There was 44 in the class, and he lined us up 3 deep. Smallest at the front, tallest at the rear. Well, I won the front position because I was 4'11" and 86 pounds.
Oh, my goodness.
And the guy next to me, a guy called Bunny,
Yeah.
he was about 2 pounds heavier than me and an inch taller, you know, so we were in the front. And we were run through the Butlin's holiday camp, over the seawall, down to the sea. When you looked left and right, there was all these minefields and wires and don't go here. But there was a path down.
Now, the Butlin camps were very famous camps, weren't they?
Well, it was like a workman's camp, you know.
Was it? I see. Okay.
In those days, holidays and that weren't like they are today.
No.
But when you went down to Butlin's, the rates were inexpensive, and everything was laid on for you.
Yeah, and that got turned into a place for
It got turned
into a training base.
a naval training base.
Okay. Now, when was you went through the usual training, like you all the other services did? You marched a lot and did things that had no relation to what you were going to do.
That's right.
And then finally you were assigned what? Were you assigned a ship or something?
I was sent to the Sheffield, the old Sheffield, the cruiser.
The cruiser Sheffield.
Yeah.
That was your first?
That was my first ship.
Yeah, okay.
In fact, that was the first time I'd seen a naval ship.
Oh, my. You had a lot to learn.
Oh, yeah, I sure did.
And, well, you were now a signalman
Yeah.
going to the Sheffield. Okay, so what happened to you? You were a junior signalman, I would say.
Well, you couldn't be any less junior than I was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we got to we were drafted, as we called it in those days. And you can imagine a train with about 90% of kids had never been to sea before, didn't know where they were going. And we finished up in, I think it was Liverpool, on board the Sheffield, ready to go and fight the enemy, you know.
Right. Yeah, which you were very close to doing, if you were
Well,
in those days.
the first thing they did was sent us up to Scapa Flow. And
That's where the fleet was. wasn't
that's
it?
where the fleet was, yeah. Everything was up there, battleships, cruisers, everything. And we hit a gale of about 90-mile-an-hour winds, and I had my introduction to seasickness.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of it.
Yeah, lots of it. So now you were on the Sheffield. Were there any engagements? Did you get into trouble with her, or did you do the Scharnhorst in her, or?
Yeah, that was in 43, I think, Christmas 43.
How long were you aboard the Sheffield? Do you remember?
About a year.
Were you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So during that time, you were in the engagement that they sank the Scharnhorst.
Well, we're in the Bay of Biscay
Yeah.
with convoys.
Yeah.
And then we went from the first convoy, we went back to Plymouth and were immediately sent out to help with the invasion of Italy.
Yeah.
We're at Salerno doing bombardments,
yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
And then we went up to Naples day after.
Yeah.
And there's one thing there, you could, food, they would take anything, you know, in exchange for whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
The only thing that they wouldn't take was the Canadian salmon, which we used to get.
Oh, oh. Why wouldn't
The
they
British, we were starving, but we couldn't eat it either.
Really?
It was terrible. It was, you know, bones. And,
yes, yes, of course, yeah.
So you got a can full of bones, but no
Yeah,
salmon.
salmon.
And the Italians starved.
I didn't know we had that dreadful reputation.
Oh,
of salmon.
geez, yes, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And the Italians just wouldn't eat that.
Yes, right. So now, where was the Scharnhorst when you
The
got
Scharnhorst at the time was still in Germany.
Germany, yeah.
Yeah.
And
we were sent right from there. We refueled in Plymouth up to Iceland,
yes,
and then on the way to Russia.
on the way to Russia. So where did you get into the sinking of her?
Well, we were at the Norfolk, and I forget the name of the other ship, but the three of us were escorting, like a distant escort to a convoy that was going up.
Yeah.
And we got the word she was out
Yeah.
with another cruiser.
Yeah.
And we sent the convoy sort of into the ice packs in a way.
Yes.
And we took that
So
place.
that was safe for the convoy.
Well,
Or a
as
form of
safe
as you get, yeah.
And then we sort of took the convoy's place.
Yeah.
And we met on the 26th, I think it was, of December. We met the Scharnhorst.
Yeah.
And
she opened
she
fire
had
on
8-inch guns. We only had 6, so she outgunned us.
Yeah.
But there were 3 of us, and her first salvo hit the Norfolk and killed 9 men. Ooh. But from there on
First salvo.
First salvo. Oh, they were good. There was no doubt about it. The
yes,
Germans
they
were terrific.
Yeah.
I think you may know that
I
yourself.
do. Yes, I do. Yeah.
And but after that, we chased her. Meanwhile, they were bringing the Duke of York and another cruiser up, and
fellows.
eventually the Duke of York sank.
Yeah.
We were either
But
lucky.
you kept her busy. The three of you kept her busy.
Oh yeah,
until the
we
York
stopped
got
the,
there.
sort of getting back in
right.
till the and the result was that the Scharnhorst was sunk.
Yeah.
She had, I think, it was 1,200 men aboard.
Yeah.
And they rescued 35.
Oh my goodness.
You know, it was terrible for her.
Yes.
But the beauty of being in the Navy, you never saw what they were doing.
I know.
You know, so far away.
Yeah, I know. Well, that was quite an engagement, though. One of the serious ones of the war.
Yeah.
Getting the Scharnhorst was very important. So now, how long did you stay on the Sheffield after that?
It went back to Plymouth, I think it was.
Yeah.
And it was what you call posted nowadays.
Yes,
we called it drafted. Back to the barracks, instead of I was thinking of the in Chatham, the Chatham barracks.
Yeah.
And I was posted to a Greek destroyer as liaison crew.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
And we were told that it was.
How many of you now would go to the Greek ship?
Well, at the time, I was the only one. There were 2 on board.
Yes.
There was
2 British fellows on board.
There were 2 English people on board, and there were eventually 10 of us and 110 Greeks.
Yeah.
On a small,
Yeah.
old-fashioned destroyer.
Now, Rick, why would they do that? Is that because the Greek ship would be fighting close to the English or with the English, and they needed to have people that spoke the language? Or
well, we never knew because except for where we made friendships with the Greeks.
Yes, yeah.
We were never given any clue, you know what I mean? You went out like, the first time we went out on the Greek ship, we hit a storm.
Yeah.
Going into Scapa Flow.
Yeah.
And I think it's the neap tide, I think they call it, where one runs one way.
Yes, yeah.
And with the big storm, you're warned about getting around it, but typical Greek commander, he went through it. We were
through the middle of it.
heeled right over.
Oh, yeah.
And we lost 7 men over the sun.
Oh, my goodness.
You know, from the...
So now how long were you in the Greek ship?
I sailed out to Gibraltar with her,
Yeah.
and I met a fellow there that wanted to go to sea badly.
Yeah.
And I told him all the good things about the Greek ship, so he put into exchange places with me.
Oh, did he?
And I reluctantly agreed after he gave me, I think it was 5 tots of rum. And,
you made a very good deal there.
Oh, yeah, sure did.
Yes. And this, I could just see this poor innocent chap, you telling him what a great berth it was to be on that Greek ship.
Well, you know
Eating
what they say,
Canadian
never believe
salmon
a
you
sailor.
couldn't eat. Yeah.
Oh, no, I wouldn't tell him lies, you know that.
Well, now, so what did you do after you traded places with this poor chap?
I was sent to the, what they call Little Bay Camp on the Mediterranean side of Gibraltar. You'll notice it goes down like this.
Yeah.
And the camp was sort of in that area there. We used to get a gallon of water a day, sometimes less.
Yeah.
And you had to give, I think it was half a gallon to the galley so that they could keep you going. The rest you had to shave, wash
and
shower,
drink.
and do your Dobian.
Yeah.
So, but except for that, there was nothing that...
nothing kept you busy.
You just went visiting the rock apes.
Yes. Yes, okay. Now, we've got to hurry here a bit. You were in the Navy till the end of the war, the British Navy.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you got out afterward, obviously.
Yeah, you see, the conscriptees were allowed out.
Yeah.
And we were given, well, I got a pair of brown shoes, pair of black socks, flannel pants, a tweed jacket, and a trilby hat.
And that was your go-away present.
That was our going-away present. Thank you from the British people, you see.
That's right. Any money?
Whatever it was very little.
Very, very little. And now, where were you demobbed?
In Chatham.
In Chatham, okay.
Yeah.
And you were given this attire to wear, and a little bit of money, and off you went.
Yeah.
Then what did you do? Back home? Went back home?
I got married just before I got out.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to Birmingham, England.
Oh, I see.
And I took a job there.
Yeah.
I lasted for half an hour because it was so boring.
Oh, dear.
Although I was making enough money in an hour to cover the wages I was getting in a month in the Navy when I got out.
Now, where did you meet your lady wife?
In Hull.
In Hull.
After the Greek ship was hit, we had to go to Hull for repairs.
Yeah. And you met her there. Then you got married when you got out of the service. And you went where now? To Birmingham, you said?
Into Birmingham.
Yeah, okay. What did you do there?
I was an apprentice mechanic for the City of Birmingham Electric Supply Department.
See. Yeah. Now, what brought you out here, Rick, and when?
Well, for one thing, mother-in-law troubles. And for another thing, my wife wanted to come out, and I wanted to come out.
Yeah.
And Drew had an immigration scheme. I don't know if you knew about it.
No.
But bringing British people out here, and they were offered jobs.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a good thing.
Yeah.
But it still cost us $400 to come out. We had money at the time.
Yes, yeah.
And then we got out here. There were jobs, but you had to go looking.
You did, yes, yeah. But you came.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, now you got in the Canadian Navy. You went back in the Navy
Yeah,
at
well,
one point.
Eventually finished up in Edmonton,
Yeah,
and I joined the reserve there.
yeah,
And my wife went to England for a holiday,
yeah,
and I followed.
yeah.
I just got sick of everything, and I just quit my job. I was working for the school board and went
Yeah.
out back to England.
Yes.
And I thought, well, my wife wanted to stay in England, so I decided I would stay.
Uh-huh.
But New Year's Eve,
Yeah.
by 12 o'clock, all the lights were out. There was, in Birmingham,
Yeah.
they don't celebrate like we do for New
Yeah.
Year's Eve. And that finished me. I went to England in October,
Yeah.
and by January I joined the Canadian Navy and was on my way back.
You joined the Canadian Navy in England,
Yeah.
and that brought you back to Canada.
Yeah.
What about your wife? Did she come?
The Navy paid her way
Paid
back.
her way over. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
See, it was cheaper to join over there.
Yes, of course. And then you got your way
Yeah.
paid back. Now, where'd you go when you came to Canada?
Well, first I went out to Toronto,
Yeah.
was there a while, and then I went out to Edmonton,
Yeah.
where I landed with, I had $4 in my pocket,
Yeah.
and my shoes cost $4 to be repaired.
Yeah.
But I got a job in the hospital, engineering, and
Yeah. Yeah.
stayed there till I went back into the forces.
And you went back into the forces.
Well, I went back as a reserve first.
Yes. Yeah. And then, did you serve on Canadian ships?
A list about this long.
Yes. Well, it's right here, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll put that up on the screen afterward. I see that you were in. Oh my goodness! Look at the list. Even you were in the Bonaventure. Even I see. Yeah.
I think everybody was in the
in the
Bonaventure
Bonaventure
just to see what
sometime
it
or
was
another.
about. Yeah.
Yes, that's wonderful. Okay. Now, so you served for how long in the Canadian Navy? How, in point of view of time?
About
years?
20 years.
Did you really? Oh, I didn't know that. Yes. Well, that's a long service in the Navy, much longer than the one you had in the British Navy.
Well, the point was that, okay, it may not have been everything I wanted, but at least it kept a roof over their head, and the kids were always looked after.
Yes.
So
you had a family, eh?
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
2 daughters.
$2, right? And did you enjoy your time in the Canadian Navy?
I enjoy myself wherever I go.
Well, that's good. That's
You
a
see.
very good attitude. Yeah.
But although since I left the Navy, I've
Yeah.
been back once into the dockyard.
Have you just
Yeah.
once?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
see.
took some scouts and cubs into the
Yeah.
dockyard on a visit. But
Do you get back
I don't
to
want to
England?
go back. I always want to go forward.
Yeah. Do you go back to England at all?
Oh, I've been back to England 5 or 6 times. The last time I was there, I was in every country that wasn't under communist domination.
Oh,
About
really?
17, 18 countries, you know.
Were you really?
Yeah.
What were you doing that for? A holiday, or were you working?
No, I just
Traveled
decided
around.
to go, and I just hitchhiked around.
Did you? That's great. You have a great life.
Oh, I enjoy myself.
Yes, indeed you do. Now, what are you doing here? Where do you live now?
I live in Kingston.
In Kingston. And what do you do, or what have you been doing?
Well, I think my main object in life is to keep out of work.
Yes.
See,
Yeah.
if I took a job now, I'd be doing a young fella out of a job, and I
Oh,
hate
you wouldn't
see
want to
young
do that.
people
Oh,
now.
I know you
Yeah,
do.
you know.
Yes, I can quite understand that.
But I just follow my hobby and do as I
Yeah.
feel like. You know,
Yeah.
I do a lot of at the hobby shop, the wood hobby shop in the base.
Yes.
I've been a member of that for years now.
This is at the base here.
In Greenwood Base.
Yeah. Oh, that's very interesting. Well, you've had a very good life altogether, putting together your attention to both navies, and now you're, as you say, resisting work the best you can. Yeah.
Well, I always tell people that the doctor told me when I got out of the forces,
Yeah.
I either had to give up work or give up pleasure.
Yeah.
And I found my work was interfering with my pleasure, so I gave up work.
I see.
and I haven't done any since.
Well, that's fine. Well, you've had a very interesting life, Clem, or Rick. I'm going to call you. Yes, that's better. All right, sir. And ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking today to Mr. Clement, or Rick Richardson, and he had quite an eventful life in two navies, the British during the war and a long service in the Canadian Navy after the war. And it was a pleasure talking to him, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you.